Aurora shooter, James Holmes, listened to testimony about his brutal massacre while family members in the courtroom sobbed on a day when still traumatized students in Newtown, Connecticut returned to school with their first Monday of the new year. This country is grappling with gun violence as never before. It's an issue you know I care passionately about, so here is my position, loud and clear. I'm in favour of a nationwide ban on military-style semi-automatic assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. I want to close the gun show loopholes and require private dealers to run background checks on buyers at gun shows. And I want to see the President increase federal funding for mental health treatment for all Americans who need it. I think these are entirely reasonable reactions to the outrages that have occurred in America over the last few months. But tonight, I'll go head-to-head with a man who actually wants to deport me for having these very views. And over 104,000 Americans apparently agree with him. That's coming up. We'll begin tonight with new details inside the Colorado courtroom. There's a hearing on the way today.
Are you going to go to a commercial?
Charged with using a military-style semi-automatic assault weapon to kill 12 people and wound 58. CNN's Ed Lavandera is live outside the courthouse in Centennial, Colorado. Ed, tell me about what happened today.
Well, good evening, Piers. Well, this was the day where we first heard from the officers that first came into contact with James Holmes the night of that shooting. These are officers that we have not heard from tell their stories in their own words, and it was very difficult for many of the family members and survivors who attended this hearing. We spoke with several of them heading in and out of the courtroom throughout the day today, and we talked to them about gun control issues that have been debated so fiercely here in the last few weeks in the United States. And we started off by talking with Tom Teves. His son Alex was one of the victims gunned down in the Aurora Theater shooting back on the night of July 20th. And he talked about assault rifles and what he thought should happen with them and if they should be banned. Listen to what he said.
There's only one reason to use those weapons, and that's to murder people. So we probably should call them murder weapons, and we probably should get them off the streets.
People kill people. Guns don't kill people.
Unless your job entitles you to having a gun, I feel like they should be illegal.
My cousin's a cop, and he would tell me about kids just walking around with guns. So I mean, yeah, access to guns is a little too lenient.
Here's a mix of opinions from many of the people we spoke with today who had come to listen to this preliminary hearing today in Centennial, Colorado.
We're asking kids. Ask anybody over 35 or 40 years old.
Jessica's in the courtroom for today's hearing. Her cousin Jonathan Blunt died protecting his girlfriend from the shooting, and she joins me now exclusively. And Dave Hoover's nephew, AJ Boyk, was one of those killed in the Aurora movie theatre. Welcome to you both. Let me start with you, Jessica. It must have been a very difficult day for you, and indeed for all relatives involved in that appalling incident. What was your feeling today as you sat in the courtroom watching the events?
It was definitely very sad, very traumatic to hear new details regarding the shooting and the position of, where everybody was in the theater when their bodies were recovered. And also to just look around the courtroom and to see the other family members and the amount of grief that everybody is still going through.
When you saw the shooter up close as you did today, did it shock you even more that he was able to arm himself in the horrifying manner that he did?
Yes, and not only that, but it was amazing to me the amount of ammunition that he had, not only in the weapons that he used, but also in his pockets and what was found on the floor and in the parking lot.
Let me turn to you, Dave Hoover. As I said, you're the uncle of AJ Boyk. You've been active since the Aurora shooting in trying to frame some new legislation here. Tell me about what you would really like to see happen.
Pierce, I can't say how much I agree with your opinion and what you've stated previously. I appreciate you having your First Amendment right, and I am glad you're speaking out, because that's exactly what we need to do, is have a conversation, a reasonable conversation. This country needs to realize that we need to make sure that these guns are not in the hands of those who shouldn't have them, They need to be in the hands, and an AR-15 or an M16, same weapon, just a different designation, needs to be in the hands of the military or police only. High-capacity magazines have no place in the world of hunting, and what we need to do is make sure that people can protect themselves at home and protect their families, but we do not need to be throwing more guns out there on the street to be used by criminals. And we need to have a framework, at least something set in place that will tell our community and our country, this is not right. This is where we're going to live. Guns do not need to be out there. Like I can go buy a loaf of bread. It's insane to be able to do that. Nobody wants to come in and say that if I'm a depressed individual going through a rough time in life, we're going to come take your guns away. But if you're talking to a therapist and you're saying, I'm going down to the theater or I'm going to church and I'm going to wreak havoc, that person does not need to have a gun or access to a gun. They should be having their background checked. They should be, anybody who is a reasonable gun owner, which I am. I hunt. I went hunting this year. I harvested my deer. I'm happy to go through any background check, and I expect that any other gun owner in this country is going to go through the same background check that I am.
Dave, thank you very much for joining me, and indeed to you, Jessica. Anyone who's watched this show over the past few weeks knows I've taken a pretty strong stand on guns in America. It's on a scale of notice to supporters of gun rights, and it's led to a petition on the White House official website, no less. It's entitled, I quote, "Deport British citizen Piers Morgan for attacking Second Amendment." Take a look. More than 104,000 people have signed it so far. And joining me now is one of the people behind the petition, Alex Jones. He's host of the Alex Jones Show. Welcome to you.
Piers, thanks for having me.
Why do you want to deport me?
Well, we did it as a way to bring attention to the fact that we have all of these foreigners, and the Russian government, the official Chinese government. Mao said political power goes out of the barrel of a gun. He killed about 80 million people because he's the only guy that had the guns. So we did it to point out that this is globalism, and the mega banks that control the planet brag that they've taken over. In Bloomberg, AP, Reuters, you name it, brag that they're going to get our guns as well. They've taken everybody's guns but the Swiss and the American people. And when they get our guns, they can have their world tyranny. While the government buys 1.6 billion bullets, armored vehicles, tanks, helicopters, Predator drones, armed, now in U.S. skies, being used to arrest people in North Dakota. The Second Amendment isn't there for duck hunting. It's there to protect us from tyrannical government and street thugs. Take the women in India. Your piece earlier on CNN I was watching during Anderson Cooper's show didn't tell you that the women of India have signed giant petitions to get firearms because the police can't and won't protect them. The answer is, hey, wait a minute, I have FBI crime statistics that come out a year late, 2011. 20+% crime drop in the last 9 years. Real violent crime, because more guns means less crime. Britain took the guns 15, 16 years ago, tripling of your overall violent crime. True, we have a higher gun violence level, but overall muggings, stabbings, deaths, those men raped that woman in India to death with an iron rod 4 feet long. You can't ban the iron rods. The guns, the iron rods, Pierce, didn't do it. The tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand? That's why you're going to fail, and the establishment knows no matter how much propaganda, the Republic will rise again when you attempt to take our guns. My family in the Texas Revolution against Santa Anna, my family was at the core on both sides starting that because Santa Anna came to take the guns at Gonzales, Texas. Pierce, don't try what your ancestors did before. Why don't you come to America? I'll take you out shooting. You can become an American and join the Republic.
You finished?
Yes, I am finished. You will not take my right. You go through background checks to get guns. How about Prozac? You know the number one, that's the big sponsor, isn't it? Or that whole class of drugs.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, gotta cut that off, don't you? Don't want to talk about it. The U.S. #1 cause of death is suicide now because they give people suicide mass murder pills.
Calm down.
Your answer is give more money to psychiatrists and psychologists and put more crazy people on drugs to make them kill people, Pierce.
Let's try and have a debate here.
Yeah.
Answer me this question.
I'm sick of the same old script here, bud.
It's fine. But how many gun murders were there in America last year? Do you know?
There were about 11,458, and about 74% of those were gang-related, gangbangers shooting each other. You get 3,500 to 4,000. How many people died from infections in hospitals? 197,000.
Let me just ask you a second.
That's right.
How many gun murders were there in Britain?
How many great white sharks
How many
kill people every year, but they're scared to swim?
Right. How many gun murders were there in Britain?
A very low amount. I already went over those
How many,
statistics.
do you know?
I was only a few hundred.
No. How many gun murders?
I actually did pull up the statistics. Here, let me pull them out right here. I figured you'd do that.
Gun murders.
Oh, wait.
Last
UK
year.
violent crime capital of Europe. London Telegraph. Here,
It's quite a simple question.
Well, that's the oldest.
You're very loud,
That's the oldest
You're making a lot of
Mason
noise.
tactic to ask me some little factoid.
So if there's not a little factor.
I already said earlier,
We're talking about
England
a
has a
country.
lot lower gun crime rate because you took all the guns.
Let me try exactly
But you've got hordes of people burning down cities and beating old women's brains out every day.
What a ridiculous
They arrest people in England if they defend themselves. That's on record. My God, you've got a total police state. Everybody's fleeing that country because you've had to flee here, bud. Why don't you tell folks? Yeah, you fled here. Why don't you go back and face the charges on the hacking scandal?
Answer this question. How many...
Why'd you get fired from the Daily Mirror for putting out fake stories? You're a hatchet man of the New World Order. You're a hatchet man. And I'm going to say this right here. You think you're a tough guy? Well, have me back with a boxing ring in here, and I'll wear red, white, and blue, and you can wear your Jolly Roger.
Okay.
You know what?
Let's try again. How many gun murders were there?
Oh, you're going to ban your fist now?
In Britain last year.
How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? I already went over those statistics.
Do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
You said hundreds.
It's very low.
You said hundreds.
Yes.
It's actually 35.
Well, the point is you can...
Against 11,000. Do you understand the difference between 11,000
Yeah, England
and
wants to
35?
ban knives now because tens of thousands are getting stabbed.
But do you understand the difference?
The knife doesn't kill people.
Do you understand?
The gun doesn't kill people.
Yes.
Listen,
Do
do you understand?
between
They're not going to pull on America's
35
heartstrings. They know your script. Okay? You're not going to get our guns. By the way, you guys always say, we just want to take the semi-autos. Okay, and all this other stuff when semi-autos aren't even, rifles aren't even used, but in a fraction of the crimes, you can pull those numbers up. Okay? No, hold on.
But let me ask you one question. Which weapon was predominantly used in the Aurora movie theatre shooting?
M4 AR-15 variants.
So it was a semi-automatic assault rifle.
Again.
Okay,
But
next
statistically,
question.
it's very, very low.
That was. Do you agree it was the single biggest shooting in the history of America in terms of people hit by a shooter? Do you know that?
No, I believe that there were others. Some other shootings were about over 30.
No. This was the single biggest mass shooting.
Well, listen, you're just going. There have been bombings of Wall Street.
Let me ask you something.
Listen, why can't the
Let me
pilots
ask you
have
a second
firearms?
question.
We trust them to fly the planes.
You've had a lot to say.
No,
Just
my
answer
point
this
is the
question.
Second Amendment is sacrosanct.
Do you know?
And you're not getting it.
Do you know which weapon was used in the Oregon shopping mall mass shooting recently?
I understand that people who are mentally ill on all the serotonin reuptake inhibitors who play these shoot-'em-up games want to go out and do this. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights, Piers. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights.
Just answer the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what the weapon used was?
Listen, let me ask you a question.
No,
I've got the FBI statistics that, that these so-called semi-autos that you talk
Take a
about.
break. When we come back.
Again, you're not going to get guns.
When we come back, try and answer my question.
Yeah, all you're going to do is sit there and play little factoid questions. Overall crime's gone over 20%. More.
Oh my goodness.